Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, a podcast about games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host today, Joe, and with me, the man who started to narrate his own life only in metaphors, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I am doing as well as the breeze.
All right, sure thing. Anyways, how have you been the last couple
I
weeks?
should have done that differently. Nick is doing as well as the breeze. um,
As
d-
you stared glassy-eyed into the camera.
yes. You ever see Stranger Than Fiction?
Yes.
That's pretty good. I thought that was a pretty good idea and a good movie overall. Uh,
The first Will Ferrell movie I actually liked, surprisingly enough. I liked it because he wasn't being the screaming idiot that he is, though the cover is him being a screaming idiot.
yeah.
uh, but no, that was actually a decent movie, and then I kind of warmed up to him a little bit more. There's only a handful of movies I actually do like him in, but for the most part, I actually don't like him as an actor.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, he was very low key, kind of just sort of standing there reading lines, but somehow it works. I guess because he is like turned up to 11 in everything else that he does. Whenever he's just being stoic and boring, he's actually about like a reasonable volume. But yeah, I always like that movie, and so whenever you said narrating, it reminded me of that because of it has a good cast in it too. Because of what's her name, Emma Thompson, doing the narrating for his life. Anyway, yeah, I'm doing good. How are you, Joe?
Uh, Doing all right. Could be better. Family spouse was sick for the most part of last week, and so I had to do a lot of I was parent on deck, and so yeah, I'm pretty exhausted. Uh, Relatively new tires on one of my vehicles got a puncture, so
Oh,
that was awesome. Luckily, it was a quick fix, but still, it's just like I would rather not have to patch a new set of tires, and I wish it was rather my other car, which has like they're almost end of life, so that would have been okay. But luckily, it wasn't a sidewall, so I'm fine. Yeah, and then getting ready for the holiday coming up here. So yay. Getting to do a lot of driving and visiting family. Uh, have a lot of family I haven't seen since prior to COVID, and so they haven't seen my family at all, like my children. So that's a
oh,
lot of introductions. So yeah, that's gonna expect me to come back next week being sick from those dirty people. That's all I'm saying.
this is like extended family and stuff.
Yeah, out of state, and
Okay.
that's mainly the reason why we haven't seen them since prior to COVID. It's just too long of a drive, and then when our kids were too young, we're like, nope. That is, you can come to me, but obviously you haven't. So that proves how much of a relationship we have. Um, but I'll do the bit where I'll make the rounds. Essentially, there enough of them are close enough together where we'll just hang out for a day. We're setting up base camp at the in-laws, and then we're just gonna be doing traveling all around. So yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'll be traveling up to see my brother for Thanksgiving, in Dallas. So should be fun. But yeah, it's getting crazy. The holidays are upon us. Amazon just started some pre Black Friday sales, some decent stuff on there. Actually, they have Bose headphones on there. Normally like 325 or 330, and they're down to like 200. They have a couple different
I'm
versions
assuming
too.
they're wireless noise canceling, right?
Yeah, yeah, these are their normal. I mean, yeah, they're wireless and noise canceling. Um,
All right. If that's what you're looking for, then yeah, that's a good setup. If you're going to be just looking for a new pair of studio headphones, there's a lot of other really good ones for around the same price bracket.
at
But if you want that
200.
noise canceling for like planes and stuff, yeah, it's you're talking about 2 to 300 price range. There's yeah. Anyways, that's a whole different topic for a different thing. That's going to take forever.
I
Um,
guess I
I'll
just
send you some stuff afterwards.
okay. I mean, there's probably other
If you
brands
want
that
the
are going to be
wireless
on.
though, I mean, Bose are solid for wireless, and Bose and Sony do a good noise canceling bit. So,
Yeah, well, I
um,
have some
yeah,
skull candies at work, and they're okay. They were $40 on sale. They're not like really great or anything, but I'd like to get an upgrade for that kind of that kind of listening experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are they over the ear or these Bose? Because that's what I was thinking. I was thinking they're like the comfort line.
Yeah, these Bose are the over the ear ones.
Okay, then yeah, like I said, everything for its own use case. I had a pair of aviation Bose, which the noise canceling on that was rock solid.
Mm.
So yeah, I do recommend their tech for that. But yeah, all right. Well, hopefully you won't be caught up too much with the Dallas traffic and such. I'm going out to the country, so it won't be a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, things are happening, and one of the big ones coming up now is they finally announced the nominees for Game of the Year and all their categories underneath for the Video Game Awards. So yeah, why don't you just kick us off, man?
Okay, so we're gonna talk about a couple different ones. Let's talk about. We'll leave Game of the Year for last because we're gonna be talking about the nominations and our predictions. I think we did this last year too. Our predictions.
Yep, and we never followed through with it. So yeah,
What do you mean?
we never came back and saw who was right and who was
Oh
wrong.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well, this is a bi-weekly podcast, not a weekly podcast. So leave that to the weekly guys, I guess. Anyway, so last year we talked about a bunch of different sections. We don't need to do all that this time. I just narrowed it down to direction, narrative, art direction, score and music, and then game of the year. So yeah, so we'll talk about some of that, and yeah, kicking us off. Um, I'm going to be using the article from Game Informer because that was the one that was the most accessible. Um, but here we go. So, best game direction. The nominees are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, Bros Wonder, I guess, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. All right. So, game direction. So, are there any of those that stand out to you, or do you think there are any that have been snubbed for that, I guess?
well, as far as being snubbed goes, it's kind of hard to recall. I think that I think all these have a spot on here. There are probably a handful that should be on here that just aren't coming to mind right now on the spot. But no, these ones are solid. I mean, uh, you can't argue with Baldur's Gate. I mean, that's with all the capabilities of that game, the different paths and everything like that. That's been making huge headways, and people are sinking in like 100 plus hours easily. It's you have so many branching paths and you can miss so many things, and it all plays really seamless. uh, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, I mean, it is what it is. Solid, great game, so you can't really, I mean, it's probably some of the best superhero stuff done since like the early Rockstar Batman stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it's done better in a lot of ways, but that's could be argued. uh, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, that's actually, I think in this category it belongs because of all the unique stuff they're pulling off. They're not just rehashing like they did with the new Super Mario Brothers. Like they did make some new things happen in that game, but it wasn't all that original, I guess, or didn't feel as good as this. So everything about this uh, is unique in a lot of ways, and they really kind of tried new things, which is to be impressed. Now, I didn't play Tears of the Kingdom, and that's probably one that I don't think would, if any of them didn't belong on here, wouldn't, because it's kind of more. I like I said, I can't really tell because I hadn't played the game, but from everything, it just feels like a rehash of the old one. So like we're just gonna keep the same formula. Now, I know there is. I've heard some podcasts talk about some of the extra stuff that opens up in that game and some of the layering, as it were. So that it could be argued that it belongs, but honestly, it just feels like it's there because everyone loves Zelda. So, and then there's Alan Wake 2, which is my personal choice for a lot of these things, but at the same time, I think Baldur's Gate will probably will ink out a lot of these categories, and just because. of the size of the team, the effort that went in, and the complexity of a lot of things. So, but I would be in this category in particular, I'd be rooting for Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on a lot of that. Kind of like you said about Baldur's Gate 3. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is really gonna take home a lot of hardware this year. Um, Whenever it came out, it was pretty much everywhere, kind of as a surprise. As you know, it was just everybody was talking about it. It it uh, it was something that I don't think people really expected to be that good or as good. I didn't play it, but that compared to Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom it's a double edged sword because um, I'm pretty sure that Breath of the Wild won in 2017, right? Am I crazy? The
As far as directing goes,
As far as like game of the year in general, just like a bunch of, I'm sure it won a bunch of awards or whatever.
game of the year was Elden Ring last year.
No, 2017
Oh, 2017. I'm sorry.
with Breath of the Wild. Yeah,
Yeah, I honestly don't remember anymore.
yeah,
It probably did win, to be honest, and that's going to be, I think, the hardest thing for a lot of these categories is because even though they did introduce new elements, you know,
yeah,
you can cynically say it's like, a Breath of the Wild 1.5 or something. Granted, they've done a lot more. It's just, and it's more than just an expansion. I will, give that, its due, but at the same time, it isn't as groundbreaking as the original, but
yeah,
it does cause a lot of people a lot of joy. So people
yeah.
love this game, and
That's
so
kind of
that's
yeah. That's
the
kind of
hearts
the
and minds.
reason that you love it or whatever, or a lot of people are loving it because it's the same game, but it is way more advanced, which is kind of like well, the first game won, and this game is the same thing, but better, like a lot more added on to it. So shouldn't it win again? But it's like, well, then you're not really counting in novelty. So depends on where the judges are. I do think that it's going to get edged out by Baldur's Gate because of the novelty factor and the surprise factor. Super Mario Brothers Wonder, for direction specifically, I don't think that there's I don't really know too much. I've seen it be played a little bit. I don't really know what you're really doing as far as direction goes. That is extremely difficult or complicated compared with these other games. Alan Wake 2 is doing its own cool stuff. That Alan Wake 2 of all these games probably has the most vision. Like we want to make something like different that hasn't really been made before, at least not this well. So I could see that kind of being a dark horse here, no pun intended. But but yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I think Spider-Man 2 is going to get edged out because of it being another Spider-Man. I want to play it. I know it's great and everything, but I think the novelty factor is going to win win the day here. But yeah, anyway. So best narr. Go ahead. Sorry, what's
No,
wrong?
no, yeah, I agree with you on that one. That's So yeah, I figure we should but which one are you actually thinking is going to win, and which one are you hoping for? Or are they one and
I
the same?
think Baldur's Gate 3 will win. I'm torn between Zelda and Alan Wake, but I think I want Alan Wake to win more. That would be my preference. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So all right, we are in agreement on this one. All right,
Yeah.
so next category.
Next up, best narrative. The nominees are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Final Fantasy 16, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Okay. So what do you think here?
Um, so this the one that I don't think necessarily I can see why it's here is Final Fantasy 16, but at the same time I don't, just like it was why it was omitted from the previous category, I think it should be omitted from this as well, just because the narrative, when you're taking an RPG like that into consideration, it makes it a little more difficult because in this it's a more of a scripted thing, but you got so much side fluff um, in Final Fantasy in particular that it has all the side like other than a few major side quests, a lot of side quests is just busy work, and that's why I considered the last category being um, direction. I thought it because it had so many pointless side quests other than just for like leveling, and they're just nothing but fetch quests. I'm like, you kind of lost that vision, and it
Mm.
was just doing filler. So that's why I'm like, yeah, when you mentioned should there be anything on the list for direction, and I thought Final Fantasy, but then I'm like, no, because of all that extra kind of stuff, and that's why I kind of will dock it from on this as well, because you have your main story, which is you know, for I didn't finish the game, but what I did play of it, I actually liked it compared to most Final Fantasies in a long time. But also, I heard that it towards the end it draws on too long, and people are just like, just get it done with, So
We don't have
I
to hit
can't really see
60
that.
hours on every single game. Yeah.
I think Spider-Man will have a better, a more solid foundation on here because you can make that really nice, tight scripted narrative experience. Um, I remember there events happening in the first Marvel Spider-Man that was really solid, and but I can't really see you. It's one of those things that's like, yes, it's going to be, it's really good, but I can't really see it winning. I haven't played Cyberpunk 2077, but being just a standalone uh, or an expansion essentially. I There has to be something. There has to be a lot of something there, and the best thing to come from that is essentially just more of the tech features
Yeah.
and the game's not broken anymore. It's essentially how it is. It's like, well, when it came out at 2.0, they're like, hey guys, Cyberpunk 2077 now works as intended. Uh, so yeah, that's really the best thing to come out of it. And then you once again you're down to Alan Wake and Boulder's Gate. I feel like that's gonna be like this for a lot of categories.
Yeah.
So
Thankfully, the next category is going to be a little bit different. But yeah, I'm with you on a lot of that. I mean, if you're going to put Final Fantasy 16 anywhere, I didn't play it, but if you're going to put it anywhere, it would have to be in narrative because that's like the point of those games, sort of.
you mean not best RPG?
Well, I mean, like I feel like the main categories, like it's gonna slide into like those minor categories, stuff like that. But like of like
Uh,
the big ones that you really want to win, which I consider these first five or so here to be the main ones. But yeah, like you're telling me the story just wasn't really. It was good, just not like that great. I think you got to put it in here no matter what. Spider-Man 2. I'm sure it could be. I'm sure it could be really good. You have a lot of, you have Peter Parker and Miles Morales to play with, and then their side characters and all of the stuff kind of going on there. There's a ton that would be really cool. I could see happening and making a good story. But how much are they going to dip into that story versus spending a lot of time on making the mechanics really great and all the other stuff really great? It's probably going to have to take a little bit of a back seat to some of that stuff. Phantom Liberty, you're right. There's probably not going to be enough there. So what is there would have to be, on the level of, was it Blood and Wine? Is that the famous
the Witcher DLC,
Witcher
and then
DLC?
there's the only other one I can think of that is exception like or is touted as being really good is Bioshock 2, Minerva's Den.
Yeah, that's what I was
But
thinking of
that's
too.
only out of the fact that the actual Bioshock 2 wasn't as well received, so the DLC was actually more enjoyable than the actual base game.
Yeah,
Uh, Standalone from everything else, it's kind of harder to make that argument, I suppose.
yeah,
But yeah, so it's very I don't know, it's just one of the things that that and since I hadn't played it, but also I hadn't heard a lot of people raving about it. I see a hard time. This is a little metagaming here, but it's that's what you do. I mean, you're speculating,
yeah,
and I can't see them with taking this home.
yeah.
So then
If it was like
it comes
Earth,
down to
yeah.
yeah,
If it was like earth shattering and people were like saying, "No, you got to go play Cyberpunk just so you can get to Phantom Liberty," you have to do that. Kind of like they were with The Witcher back in the day. Like I could see it like if it was just totally a game changer. Dang it. stupid pun. But Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, I think these are going to be the top contenders here. Again, Baldur's Gate 3, I don't know. If the story is fantastic, rather than just long, then or full, I guess, then I could see it winning. Alan Wake 2, um, Alan Wake 2 story for what I've played is really good. It is really well put together, well acted. It hasn't dragged really at all. Um, so it depends if they're going to go for volume. Then Baldur's Gate 3 might win just on that alone. But if they're going to go on like the conciseness and just overall fun of the time that you had, then maybe Alan Wake 2 will win. I'm sure they're gonna rob Baldur's Gate 3. If they're gonna give it everything, they're gonna try to give it as much as they can. They're probably gonna give Alan Wake or some of these other ones some of the lower level, kind of throw me a bone type of awards. But yeah, I think
Well,
kind
I'm
of at the same
figuring
point again.
this is the one I think Alan Wake's gonna walk away with, and that's what I want, and that's what I predict.
Okay.
Mostly because it is a tighter scripted story. It's less chances of missing something because that's unfortunately what happens with Baldur's Gate is
Oh.
depending on who you play, your experience wildly differs. If you play a bard, you will get comical dialogue choices that no one else will get. There's certain classes, certain races, type of thing that you pick that will affect gameplay, and as it should be, essentially. But the same thing is your experience may not be the same as mine, and your playstyle will be different from mine. So while you think this is great, I may have, due to the way I play, I may actually have a really bad time with it, with a specific scene. So I think Alan Wake is the not only the smart choice but the safe choice.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I'm figuring.
Since I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, I'll go ahead and go with you on that. Alan Wake 2 being the one I want, and the one I think that will actually win. Um, so, yeah, good. Uh, Next up, Best Art Direction. The nominees are Alan Wake 2, Hi Fi Rush, Lies of P, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. All right, so what are you thinking here?
All right. I can care less about Zelda. It looks the same.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen. Once again, I haven't played it, but it feel like yes, it's a good art direction, but it's not different enough. Unlike Mario, which is odd to say that but it does look different at least in a lot of ways, and it does a lot of unique things. But once again, I also think it's just there for the fact that it's a Mario game. Uh, it's kind of I don't know. There might be a few other things out that I would think might belong in this category, other than maybe Mario or uh, Zelda.
Mm,
Lies of P has a very unique art style. Um, it's very much that gothic horror, and it does a good job of making it look good. Now, Alan Wake, it has a vision what it's going for, and it does a very good job of that. But at the same time, you have to have a proper console or a graphics card to really get the base look out of it. And it's kind of it's once again, art's very subjective. So I think this one actually would go to, in my personal opinion, Hi-Fi Rush or Liza P. But I'm personally going for Hi-Fi Rush because I think that looks amazing. And what they went for an aesthetic, they nailed it. I personally really like it, but I could also see it maybe going more towards Liza P, and then opposed to an Alan Wake too.
okay. Um, yeah, the thing about Zelda is the same as before. It being basically like a redone game is going to hurt it here. I do think that the stuff that they added in, once again, is really really cool and really really great. But is it enough to carry? I don't think so. Lies of P. Yeah, that game is really really pretty and really cool looking. Um, I don't know enough about it. Was it really well received? I can't remember if people thought it was really good or not.
Um, from the few outlets that I paid attention to, they liked it, and but due to the timing of the game, it was few people played it, and then but a lot of people. One of the people that I listened to a lot, they were like, "Yeah, I beat it," and a new game came out, so I'm playing that. But I'm going to, and the moment I'm done, I'm immediately going to go back to Lies of P again. But
Okay.
as a whole, it's decently well received, and let's. But at the same time, I think the art direction is kind of the key. Like it's
The
here for
shining
that,
point, yeah.
and it goes for that. Like I said, that gothic horror like kind of aesthetic, and they nail that part. I'm not a very good Souls player, so therefore I just stay away from those games, and
Mm,
that's why I haven't given it a shot. Um,
yeah.
I mean, I kind of saw what I wanted to of it, and like that's really neat. I'm kind of curious what how I maybe how they do the whole Pinocchio twist and stuff like that. They do, but at the same time, I kind of hate the story of Pinocchio. um, so that's why it was just like of all the things to pick, you picked like something that I actively dislike. So it makes it even more less likely for me to ever pick it up. I mean, the only reason I might is if I was ever super bored and it's on Game Pass. Uh, but yeah, that's honestly, I can't really give it much else, or I can't really talk much else about it because I haven't played it, but I have seen enough of it where I'm like, yeah, it looks good for what it is. But that's why I said Hi-Fi Rush. I think that's the one that I'm most definitely backing. I like that game a lot.
Okay. I think Super Mario Brothers Wonder, it's very pretty, but I don't think it just is too. I think it's probably just a little too 2D. It is not really. It sparkles, but it doesn't shine. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Hi-Fi Rush. I am not as big on that as you are. I thought it looked cool, but um, for me the cell shading didn't land the way that I wanted it to. It does look good. I think it belongs on this list, but to me, I just didn't like it as much. Lies of P, you will see. It, if they just have the aesthetic of that Victorian age, dark, foggy, rainy London. I don't think that's going to be enough to do it. At least not for me. Um, I think that this is a place where Alan Wake 2 can really shine because when I started playing Alan Wake 2, I it was like it was in that first minute, some of the stuff that they do that I was like, okay, I'm not just playing like a video game. I am playing a movie. It felt a lot more like that. It was slow and methodical. It surprised me, and it made me really want to know more of what was going on, but in a really beautiful way. So that is why I think that Alan Wake 2 I think Alan Wake 2 can and should win this category. Um, so yeah, it's my personal pick and my prediction is Alan Wake 2.
All right. And next you got the score and music.
Right, right. So the nominees for that are Alan Wake 2, composer Petri Alanko, Baldur's Gate 3, composer Borislav Slavov. I think that might be Borislav Slavov, but I could be wrong. Final Fantasy 16, composer Masayoshi Soken, Hi-Fi Rush, audio director Shuichi Kobori, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, composed by Nintendo Sound Team. Yeah. So, what do you think here, Joe?
Let's see. I remember the with Breath of the Wild that soundtrack being forgettable. Because like there was very few music. There wasn't actually a lot of music in that game. There was a lot of quiet, if I
Mm,
remember correctly, and so that's why you did notice music when it happened. And I remember it not moving the needle for me. So since I didn't play the second, I just assume it's going to be more of that same game design. As far as Hi-Fi Rush goes, yes, part of the category does state that it's original song and or licensed soundtrack. I think using licensed music and then throwing them into, best, score/music is cheating. So
Yeah.
I actually cannot get behind Hi-Fi Rush despite it being the crux. I mean, they do have original stuff in there as well, but I just like, it's more of a gameplay thing than it is, like, I just can't give it to them for something that, now, I think these categories are where RPGs shine.
Mm,
You really got a lot going on. Um I don't know much about Baldur's Gate soundtrack. Final Fantasy soundtrack was, uh, it's a Final Fantasy soundtrack, so it's really solid. There's a lot of good renditions of certain tunes, certain melodies, which for me it was a nostalgia factor. So I'm a little biased on that. I'm like, oh yeah, the way they did that was pretty good, and I like the way they did a twist on a classic, like melody or something. I'm like, all right, that's but at the same time, it wasn't wholly original. So it's more of like a remixing. So it's like, yeah, but I think Final Fantasy has or and Baldur's Gate probably have a really good solid chance here. Alan Wake, this is a weird one because a lot of people is like you either love it or hate it. There's certain songs that are just awesome, and other ones that I can take it or leave. It's usually how they incorporate they usually have 1 or 2 scenes in their games. Well, I should say, uh, since, Alan Wake, uh, first one, and then there was Controlled, and then there's Alan Wake 2, where certain moments are around music. Um, and I can't, say much else without spoiling, but, like, those key moments are amazing.
yeah.
They, like, um so they have really good high points, but overall, I mean, the fact that Alan Wake only has most of their music is in, like, musical interludes or on a really crappy tinny radio if you wait long like, it's hmm, I don't know. I just can't really get behind it as having the best, score soundtrack. Um, they have a really good sound design, but as far as actual, like, "Here, we're gonna pause this now. Our chapter's ending. We're gonna make you listen to this, and we're not even gonna give you the courtesy of auto going to the next chapter. We're just gonna have this keep on playing until you hit the space bar." I'm like, "That's kinda cheap."
Mm.
Because, it's just like, uh, it's a little ham-fisted there. So I actually don't like it for that. I think I'm gonna probably lean towards, Final Fantasy myself. Um, with all the fame and acclaim Baldur's Gate's getting, I'm gonna think Baldur's Gate's probably gonna win this, and I'm personally going for Final Fantasy, 16 on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I have not heard too many of well, I haven't heard Baldur's Gate 3 soundtrack or Final Fantasy 16 soundtrack. Those I imagine are very good. Final Fantasy is always it's always a big huge part of the game is the soundtrack. Hi-Fi Rush, I agree with you. It is kind of cheating to have it on here. Zelda, I have enjoyed. I trying to think of the music. I remember it being good, but I don't remember anything from it exactly. Um, I am rooting for Alan Wake 2 here to win, but I'm not really sure if it will because I don't really I don't think that Final Fantasy 16's music. Okay, my pure like shot in the dark guess about Final Fantasy 16's music is that it's not that good. But I think that Final Fantasy 16 probably suffers from uh, being compared to the Final Fantasies of old, which I mean, it's going to be a while before anybody beats or comes close to the Final Fantasy 7, 8, or 9, or 10, or 6 even music because those were just amazing. So I kind of think it might suffer from that a little bit. But I'll just jump over to Alan Wake. Like I have really loved most of the songs I've heard so far, and the rest of them I have liked at the very least. Of the actual like songs, the score has been really good overall. It's they do a really good job of raising the tension at certain points in the game, so that's been really cool. But there's something about Alan Wake 2. There's a I don't really know. I've been really careful not to look up spoilers, but from what I can tell, there was an artist by the name of Poe that put an album out in 95 and 2000. And then she just disappeared for forever. And she had this song called, well, a little later, she put out a song, wasn't even a full song, it was only a minute. It's called September 30th, 1955. And it's the, like, they say that it loops forever, this road that I lose you on every time. And it's just like that, like over and over again for like a minute. So with Alan Wake 2, they went and got her and finished the song. So the song that you hear in Alan Wake 2 that has that loop in it and then continues on, like that is basically a finished track that everybody was like dying to have it finished for the longest time. So if all that is, if I have all that accurate, and I think I have the basic plot there accurate, then that alone to me is enough for it to win best score in music. So I'm gonna make that my preference and my prediction as well.
Yeah, I it's kind of like I said, that's some weak sauce, like into the weeds thing. Like, all right, you have to know the backstory lore in order for it to actually
Oh no, I
work. I'm
think
like
that song
that'll.
kicks fucking ass. I think that song is really, really, really fucking good. I fucking love that song. It is awesome. I'd never heard it before. I
It's
never.
a good song.
It's
It
good.
no, it's a
Yeah.
good song, and but at the same time, it's just like, I think they've had, um, I think they didn't they rehash Take Control because they pretty much put all the old gods of Asgard, back into this again. So
Yeah.
therefore, you're pulling from Alan Wake and Control already. And Take Control was great, but that's also because that gameplay sequence in Control was, the ashtray sequence was amazing. And so that the song by itself is solid. The song plus gameplay and that whole visual spectacle. I mean, not really much, not going into spoiler territory, but there is a point in, shortly after you can regain control of Alan,
Okay. Yeah.
and they have this whole musical sequence, which is great. It's like a certain number, but like not going too much into it. But the way they did that was phenomenal. Uh, at the same time, though,
Because it's a
it doesn't make the
rehash.
game. It's a great bit.
Okay.
I mean, because if you're gonna go off like minor things, I mean, the original Alan Wake had War, the song War by Poets of the Fallen, and Alan Wake is in the music video. It is like straight up Alan Wake video with like this, and it's very much that style of music for these kind of games in a lot of ways. I'm like, which are good, but it's not. Once again, it's like I look at this as an overall, like, the grand scheme of, like, the larger picture, and, as far as Alan Wake goes, I think this is not the category it would do best in. I think the next category, on that list is the audio design, and that's a different subject for Alan Wake. But
Okay.
as far as actual music and score, I think this one I just can't. I like it, but it doesn't belong. As far it belongs, I should say. It's just I don't think it takes it.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's the kind of the reusing stuff from Control and from Alan Wake One does dock it points. I'll give you that. But I still think that they're doing some pretty unique stuff. They're also what's great about it is that they're putting the music center stage at certain points in Alan Wake, and I really like that. Baldur's Gate
At
3,
certain points, but at a lot of times, those soundtracks are once again bookends. They're like,
yeah,
"Yeah,
they are
here
kind of
here, we're
bookends.
gonna force you to listen to this.
which
Like, pay
which is
attention to
where
this."
like the score would have to carry from that point, which I think is good, but it may not be good enough. I just get so tired of hearing like the same freaking Lord of the Rings music that like is that I know is in Baldur's Gate 3. I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure I'll probably eat crow at some point when I'm like, "Oh, I freaking love the soundtrack of Baldur's Gate 3." But like the swelling, the swelling harps and cellos and stuff in these kind of grand epic RPGs. It's cool, but it's not different. And I feel like Alan Wake 2 is like, but dang, this is freaking different than a lot of other games that I played. Maybe I haven't played enough. Maybe there's a whole genre of stuff out there, but I just really liked what I had from Alan Wake.
I can hear you getting I can understand that fantasy fatigue for music. I feel the same way with any military soundtrack genre because you always have like the John Williams horns and blaring and trumpets and like you have to have that bombasticness and like yes, I understand military guys going off to fight, helicopter sequence or something like that, like you have to have it, but it gets boring after a while because you expect it. And but once again, I don't have much to speak on for the Baldur's Gate. I just think with the popularity of it, I can see it getting more votes because it's probably one of the most played things. Especially, I
Yeah,
find that it has a bigger audience than Final Fantasy. And once again, it's kind of my personal take is I like the way they mix the new Final Fantasy stuff. There is also original things, but it was like I said, this is overall a weak category for me. I mean, that's how it is. There wasn't anything. There's not a single thing on here that I'm like, I'm
kind of
listening to
right.
this in my off time. And
Yeah.
so I know with you and Alan, like there's certain things, there are. But like once again, if they didn't have it playing in the middle of those little interludes, you wouldn't hear that song. Period. Because and you have to pay attention to the lyrics, and then you're like, oh, I get why it's here. They're talking about looping, and there's a loop thing going on, and
Well, the
it's
lyrics
between
are
the
part of the
chapters.
song, so I mean, it's part of the
But yeah, but
music.
that's no, well, that's what but you wouldn't understand how it relates to the game if it
Oh,
wasn't for the fact that they pause. "Okay, wait a minute. Now hear this." Now,
I see what you're
if they
saying.
had interjected it with the gameplay, and you're hearing the song with an actual loop, like it's, actually integrated, that would be a much better situation. But they were like, no, pause. Hear this. See how the lyrics kind of match up? Aha, see it. No, oh wait, are you not listening to the lyrics and you're not reading the subtitles to the lyrics? Oh, yeah, we can't really hear it because the audio mix isn't really good, and you have to really crank up your headphones, and you don't have your headphones cranked up because we have too many scare tactics to just blare at you. Okay, just please read it. Please turn
Dude,
on your subtitles.
like you should play this game on console, on a TV. Like it is, I feel so bad because the stuff that you talk about, like that annoys you about the game, just isn't happening. For me playing on PS5, it's just I don't know. Like sometimes it is kind of like they do like jump scare you a little bit, but so I do.
You're like halfway through the game, man.
I,
um
Yeah,
the the
but I've had plenty of time to play. I've played like 12 hours of the game, and like them jump scaring you and stuff. It is like irritating at times, and I thought about turning it down, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna freaking deal with it. But on headphones, I can see why you'd want to turn it down. I don't know. I don't really
The
see
jump
those
scares are
things as
warranted. I give
problems.
it credit for just doing it in story. I mean, that's the one thing is, then that's just all right. You know what? We're gonna roll to audio design because this is right here.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, let's do it.
so Alan Wake, for Alan Wake 2 for audio design, we got Dead Space remake. You got Hi-Fi Rush. You got Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man 2, and Resident Evil 4. So RE4 remake. Um, so yeah, as like roll right into Alan Wake 2. Their sound design's really good.
Yeah.
The way they do the sound, like from everything from the enemy encounters, the way you can hear it in the woods, you can hear them muttering. The certain um, there's certain grossness to the sound effects too. There's something unsettling. Uh, they make a this game does a lot of things really well when it comes to that. Now, there's a few things that I think is weird for at least I've been noticing because I've been playing with headphones, is the fact that they have certain key noises associated with like items around town. So every time you walk by a water cooler, it has to bubble. It
Mm.
has to bubble every time you walk by. I'm like, this is dumb, and you're just watching this thing just bubble away, and I'm like, this. Why is it doing this? There's no, you know. But yeah, actually, I really think the sound design's actually pretty awesome. From there's a few key things that I think that might be missing from the sound design, but that's only because I'm partial to the way they did the flashlight from the original game from Alan Wake 1 because there was always a consistent pop. and it was very much a visual and more of an audio strike. Like you still get that pop when you take away a Taken's like shield, the
Mm,
shadow presence, like, but it's not always as steady, and it's just there's something. It's like a wet fart. I mean, it's just like it is not as good, it is not as crisp, and it's just lacking something. And also, I think it's possibly just because of the way the game is, um, because it's, I've had a glitch where I would shine a flashlight blast at someone, and because I didn't hit it just right for the entirety, I'd have to hit it again, and I'm on them, but it does they don't their shield doesn't go away, and then I do it a 3rd time, and it's still not, and then I have to, like, juke around them while they're trying to hit me, and then
yeah,
I can hit them and pop them. And so, like, because of because of the gameplay not feeling as good and the sound design, like that particular sound design not being as crisp as the previous, and like very because you were able to tell a lot of things straight up audibly. Um, Similar, the one thing it's lacking is the dodge mechanic, because you were able to tell by the sound from enemies coming at you. They'd be off screen, um, and you can tell that you're about to get hit, and so therefore you were able to do more perfect dodges all the time in Alan Wake One. And maybe the timing window is probably bigger because originally it was targeting console and stuff like that.
yeah,
Uh, but I felt that it was much more successful in that kind of gameplay. But like I said, strictly audio cues, and it really did help out. While this one, my perfect dodge timing is way off compared to the original game. I still do it from time to time, but like you're almost able to dodge like every axe thrown or sickle or whatever. You're able to dodge a lot of things, and just physical attacks, or upfront melee. And this one, I'm dodging far less. But then, as far as the good sound design goes, the weapons all sound great. The Once again, the sound effects of enemies as they mutter, or like the wolves in the woods, just the audio cues are just when you're hearing like, oh, I can hear slightly in the distance there must be a nursery rhyme nearby, because you can hear the electrical equipment. Certain key things like that. They do a really good job. So that's my take on Alan Wake. I'm liking it. It's hard to say if it's a strong contender to win this category. I think right out the gate. I'm just gonna say that without going through everything else. Um, but I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of like I think it might win, but that's also slightly because it's best of a mediocre bunch.
yeah.
I'll save my piece on the other ones, but I figured since I talked so much about this, I wanted you to say your piece.
Well, I don't really have
So
too much else to say other than maybe I agree with you on quite a bit of Alan Wake 2. Stuff just doesn't really bother me. I think it sounds cool. I think the guns and stuff, the clicking and all that stuff sounds good, and they do a good job of popping in um, sounds like in Coffee World and stuff like that. The some of the 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 mechanics of the stuff that's going on there is rings really true. I think I don't really know enough about these other ones, but I imagine that Hi-Fi Rush, if it's gonna win anywhere, it would probably have to win here because the point of that game is uh, like audio cues for timing. So the audio design would have to be pinpoint accurate. So it kind of maybe it cheated too much on score and music, but on sound design, it really has to be great in order for that game to work at all. And that game is a good game. So that would be my guess for the rest of these. I mean, I'm sure Resident Evil is probably a lot like Alan Wake, in because they're both kind of horror games and they're going to have the same sort of mo. Spider-Man 2 probably has a lot of cool stuff going on because of all of the gadgetry and different things that you're trying to go through. Dead Space, I guess loop that in with Alan Wake and Resident Evil. But I don't know. I guess I'd prefer Alan Wake to win just because I'm a sucker for that game. But I think Hi-Fi Rush. I think Hi-Fi Rush. I'm gonna predict Hi-Fi Rush to win.
I mean, it is one of the categories of if it's to win anything, this is a strong contender for sure. Um, I think it's fair. Your assessment. As far as the remakes go, whether it's RE4 or Dead Space, Yes, they remade it, and yes, they added more to it, and but it's also I kind of dock it personally because it is missing something there because the fact that it's already kind of been done. A lot of the foundation is, you're tweaking and you're making what existed better. Uh, but honestly, it's like, it's similar with Spider-Man. Like yes, you have uh good sound design, but you also have an excellent team, which isn't to say it's like cheating, but at the same time, it's like there's I don't know there a horror game like all that includes the remakes here or Alan Wake, but because of by its very nature, kind of gets the advantage
Yeah,
because
uh,
you need that sound design to be solid because
it's
that's
such a big part of
it
the
really
horror
amps up the
experience. Yeah,
Ex yeah. What's more scary is the ambiance than it is the actual encounters themselves as a whole,
right.
and that's the reason why I would kind of personally lean towards Alan Wake would be, um, certain areas of the game where at a certain point, I'm like, I know there's nothing here. I know for multiple reasons, but even going through just recollecting loot that I've left,
Yeah,
I'm still tense and I'm still darting from room to room, and I'm like, "Okay, back against the wall, here you go." Like or like I shouldn't there's zero need for it. If I was speeding running this, I'm like, "Yeah, I know I'm good. Just beeline it," but at the same time, I'm still playing it safe because I'm a scaredy cat. But also it really helps with the sound design and just the ambiance of, that there's a lot going to that game.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
yes.
I think jump over, do one more kind of do best performance, but I only want to talk about um, Alan Wake 2 in this, and then I want to go on to like what we think is going to be the game of the year overall. But yeah, so I'll just read through the nominations to just out of courtesy for best performance. Ben Starr as Clive Ross Field, Final Fantasy 16. Cameron Monaghan as Cal Kestis, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Idris Elba as Solomon Reed, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty. Melanie LeBird as Saga Anderson in Alan Wake 2. Neil Newbon as Astarion, Baldur's Gate 3, Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. So yeah, I just like I haven't played, I don't think anything else here. I'm sure all these guys have done great. I'm kind of surprised that we're not seeing the Alan Wake's actor on here. But I will say that I have really enjoyed Melanie Liebert. I really have enjoyed her performance as Saga Anderson. Pretty much about an hour or so into the game, I was like, man, Saga is freaking cool. She really won me over immediately. I had no idea what to expect out of her, but she has been a really wonderful addition to the game, and I think that the actress's performance has a huge part to play in that.
Yeah, no, it's, I know what you're talking about. She did surprise me better than I expected. Um, I'm saying, w where's, Sam Lake? Hmm? Uh, the original Max Payne. Like, I don't know, also there's, don't forget there's, what's his face? Shawn Ashmore. He's in it too.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, yeah, he is.
it was funny because I'm looking at him like, wait a minute. Is that him or am I just like confused? And then there's a couple lines of dialogue. I'm like, oh, that's how they're connecting it to Quantum Break. Okay, Roger that. That's actually really neat. So I found it to be pretty awesome. The way they tied those knots, and I'm like, all right. Uh, no, I think she does her performance drives a lot of it. There was a really awkward piece of dialogue. Um, Oh, shoot now, I'm trying to remember how it went, but it was just, she was engaging with, a different agent, and out of nowhere, she just kind of her line gets, like, really high pitch, and I'm like, "Wow, that was really odd." And then I just assumed they were gonna end the dialogue, but then I forget, but then they end up continuing the conversations, they kinda bring it up, or they bring up at least what she said, not how she said it, but I'm like, "Oh, at least they continued the conversation," but it really felt like, they were given a separate line, and read this like this. I'm like, "Wait a minute, whoa, that just did not like, your whole tone was here, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you went, higher voice," and I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "You're whoever told you to read that line was just a little odd." Um, yeah, Alan Wake I can see doing really well, but at the same time, it's like I don't know enough about the Baldur's Gate, all that the specific character who in the lines that they're doing. So it's kind of and Idris Elba. I'm like, it's Idris Elba doing Idris Elba. I mean, I don't know. I kind of it's a little bit uh it's him. Like, and he must do a good enough job to warrant him being here instead of Keanu Reeves, I guess, because the DLC has him in it too. So
Yeah.
um,
For
as far as what's that, Ben Starr, Final Fantasy 16. I Yeah, once again, it's just I wish I liked that game more. I mean, I really did like it. It surprised me, but at the same time, it was just there's a certain cadence where you're like, okay, you kind of understand where the story's going, and mostly because I'm more interested in the story of Alan Wake. It caught me more. I mean, I can see. I haven't gotten around to Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man 2 yet, um, but I can see that being really good. I mean, I remember in the first game, depending on what you're doing, uh, affects the character's voice. So if they're on a phone call and you're standing still, they're gonna speak normal. But if you're in the middle of swinging, they sound more winded. Things like that. Like that was always pretty cool. I'm like, all right, that's neat. But yeah,
that's pretty hard to do because you have to re-record those lines with a different, acting with a different performance to it. Wow, that's pretty cool.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a I really don't
Yeah,
have a stake in this one. So
yeah.
you
I
get
just, I just kind of wanted to talk about.
you just want to nominate Alan Wake too.
I just
So
want to
I
talk
hear you.
about Saga, about Melanie Liberd, because I thought she was a big surprise for me. I thought she was very good, or has been so far. Okay, so jumping over to Game of the Year, reading the nominees: Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I feel like we've seen this list before. Everything
I
except
mean,
for Resident Evil was on the direction, the best game direction list. So yeah,
I feel like they're pandering to Mario. Um,
yeah.
I played RE 4 Make, but I haven't. I don't think it deserves Game of the Year. Uh,
Do you think it deserves to be on this list though?
that is a enough of it's different, so you can argue the fact that if it's not just a if it's not just a remaster, right? That's the key difference.
Oh,
They're not just upresing it. They're not taking the exact same thing and just making it prettier. They did do actual changes, but I don't. The thing is, if this isn't here, what deserves to be here is the question, and uh, that's a little harder for me to think of off the top of my head. I mean, it's just like you got a couple independent games, like indie games that were pretty good. You have some like there wasn't a lot personally that made a lot of waves. That I wouldn't be like, wow, this is like really, really needs to be here. Um, so I mean, there's other ones in other categories where I'm like, yeah, you belong in said category. Like for me, there's a couple of VR games, that were nominated on this thing. I'm like, okay, yep, those VR games are solid. Uh, but as far as game of the year, I mean, then again, I also am on the camp that I think Legend of Zelda shouldn't be on here either. But I haven't played it, so that's just me. That's just me hating on it.
mm,
And once again, that game makes a lot of people happy and
it's very
makes
good.
Nintendo money,
It's very good.
and so therefore it has to be up there because of sales numbers by itself. And I'm like, all right, uh, I think it's honestly just going to be down to Alan Wake and Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
I can see like Spider-Man has to do something really amazing to do it, but this is just Marvel Spider-Man. This isn't Marvel's Amazing Spider-Man, so it's just like meh.
Just in Marvel's
Um,
mess, Spider-Man.
no, it's just I mean they did a couple neat story beats in the original game,
Yeah.
and I was like I didn't expect coming, and I was like, dude, that's really awesome. I'm glad they did it. And they'd have to do a lot more of that, and I just don't see that happening. Uh, and same with Super Mario Brothers, like Wonder. You what are you? I don't know. It has to be truly different to really, and it's just I feel like it is different, but it's not like it just doesn't reach the same heights. Um, and like I said, a remake that should like a good remake is uh, the new Super Mario RPG. I mean, they did a lot of things different. It's mostly the same game, just looks really good. So, but they did do a few tweaks here and there. But as a whole, it's more or less the same game. And I wouldn't because it came out so late. It literally just it just came out, so it can't make it. It's not able to be nominated. It could technically go for next year. By that time, no one's going to remember it, so
Yeah.
it's going to just kind of get kicked to the curb. Um, but also I because it's such a just a classic, it's a polishing of the old one. I don't honestly think it deserves to be like, so maybe at one or two categories specific, like RPG maybe, but as far as something like Game of the Year, it wouldn't deserve to be, in my opinion. And that's why Resident Evil 4, that game is mostly the same. Um, it plays really
Mm,
well. It does the remake things well, but I just don't think personally. But that's just my take. I would like I would like Alan Wake to win. As this is our theme today,
yeah.
Alan Wake.
We're both.
But then again, I didn't cherry pick these categories. Someone else did.
I
So
mean, these are like the top ones. I could go do like best like action RPG or something like that. That's very specific. Best puzzle game or something. But I tried to pick the ones that are uh, just the top things everybody cares about the most, or it says the most about the game as a whole, I guess. Yeah, I'm with you on Alan Wake 2. I wanted to win, but Resident Evil 4. I didn't play it. I don't think it belongs on this list. I don't think anything that's heavy that is that heavy of a remake deserves to be on it. I also wouldn't think that Final Fantasy VII remake would deserve to be on any lists. I don't. I mean, even though that game is doing some different things, that's a little more fair. I don't know. It just the remake. It's hard. It would have to blow me away in like a lot of other ways besides the story. So
yeah, I would bat for Final Fantasy 7. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I'd bat for that more than others because
of
the
how different
um
it is story wise.
the story, not only is the story deviating from the original, it does follow the major certain key points, but also the gameplay itself is fundamentally different.
Yeah.
There is other than having, like I said, a few major story beats, and you're like, oh yeah, I can kind of get the outline. If I you play the original, then you get more or less the same story, but there is so much more. There's so much added. It's quite a bit different. That's where I can see it being. But Final Fantasy, or as far as Resident Evil 4 goes, it is more or less the same thing.
Just
Yes, it
better
plays a little different,
expanded.
but the story beat by beat, like the majority, it's like I would say like 75-80%, like the same. There's even like, oh, I knew there was certain hidden items, and they're like, yeah, we kind of put them back around the same spot. I'm like, okay, I know to look in the trees around this area. Sure enough, I found something. So that's why it's a little harder to nominate that. I think, once again, Mario, I don't think it belongs here, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
I don't think
especially since
Mario
it's so new,
belongs here.
I don't think
It's
it's. Uh,
I've seen it. You played a little bit, and I'm like, okay, it's a beautiful, cool, good game, but it's just I don't think that it belongs here. It's pandering to it. Zelda, same story as before. I do think Zelda is a really good game. Tears of the Kingdom just makes just makes it feel like Breath of the Wild is incomplete. That's like the kind of the meanest thing I can say about it is that it just makes it like, why would you ever play Breath of the Wild again? Um, but both games are good. But Tears of the Kingdom is just like, man, this is so much more cool stuff. But it's not really. I don't know. It's been a while since I played it. I really did love it a lot. I don't know. I could see it being on this list, but not winning.
but you never beat it, so just saying, you didn't like it enough to finish the game.
Yeah, I mean, because you just have to. I mean, obviously, if you like a game at all, you're gonna finish it. It's not like this world of adulthood is keeping you from playing anything. Um, yeah, this is where they're gonna give it to Baldur's Gate 3. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna snub Baldur's Gate 3, if at all, in one of the other categories. They are going to give it to Baldur's Gate 3 here. That is my prediction. And like you, I do want Alan Wake 2 to win. Spider-Man 2. Yeah, it's just not enough of a thing. It's not enough of its own thing. It's too much building on a previous game or previous games. It's deserves to be on this list probably, but it's just not new enough and different enough. And that's where Baldur's Gate 3 is just gonna take home the hardware here.
So I guess the big question then is, will there be better security this year, or will someone also try to run up on stage uh,
I'm predicting there's going to be
for the third
much
time
better
in like a year
security
and a
this
half?
year. I'm predicting that there is going to be guards standing in the aisles, maybe on camera a couple times if they sweep over the audience. I think there's going to be very good security. That's my guess.
See, I think you don't want that image, but they should have a better job at the door checking people in, and making sure and vetting who actually comes in.
I say guards. They're going to be guards. They're just not going to look like guards. They're going to be like waiter. They're going to be dressed like waiters, or they're not going to be like dressed like Secret Service or anything
Being
like
an
that.
auditorium, I
They're,
just assume they're just gonna be like you know, uh, stage crew for
You're,
a
you're
concert.
probably right.
Just
They're
dudes
probably
sitting
not
at
going
the
to
front.
put guards in the aisles, but yeah, they will be much more careful at the door and stuff. Um, I don't know. I'd like to know what all they do to up security, but I'm sure that they will be upping it quite a bit. And I doubt that some rando coming on stage is going to happen again. That was pretty wild.
Yeah, well, like I said, they did that just recently in Germany for Gamescom.
Oh
A
yeah.
guy came up on stage again. So like
Oh
you think you'd have learned after the first time. So there's two times in a year, within a calendar year. Let's make it three. Uh
yeah. Well then maybe it will not be, but I mean the Gamescom is a little different, and they hadn't already been stung. I guess Game of the Year has been stung, so and they're the biggest award show for games. I guess only award show for games. So I think that they will uh, clean things up in that regard this time.
all right, well, here's hoping that they learn something new. And yeah, as far as we're just gonna pretty much call it in for the day. Uh there hasn't been much else we've been playing. We've been playing
Obviously,
just more or less Alan Wake this
and
time.
we've talked a lot
Uh
about it today already too.
yep. So that's exactly it. I mean, it's just, uh, yeah, especially with the fact that I hadn't had a lot of time, just spouse being sick and all. So
Um,
it's been a rough one, and yeah, I'm looking at. I think I'm in like 20 hours into the game now,
okay.
but I've also done a lot of exploring, backtracking, because I had a lunchbox go missing, so I completely scoured an area multiple times. I've tried and then also, I just dove deep into the weird mechanics of the game where it's just like, okay, if I if I just carry my weapons, no ammo, what will populate when I open up a chest? And I was like, okay, I'm almost guaranteed to get ten rounds of pistol ammo if I have nothing in my inventory. But then if I have like 10, I think I had like 15 rounds of pistol ammo. Then the next thing it gave me was I think it was not shotgun ammo. It might have been a flare. Oh no, it gave me batteries. That's right. It gave me two batteries. It give me, but if you had two batteries in your inventory, next time it gives you a single battery. So I'm like, okay, make sure you have zero batteries. And then if you have both pistol ammo and batteries, and then it'd give you shotgun shells.
Mm.
um, but so I was really messing into the weeds
Yeah,
on this stuff. I
you
was
sent
like,
me
all right,
some
this is
screenshots, and you're breaking the game. Like you're totally
I
breaking
have
it
the
wide
entire
open.
I have Saga's complete inventory warehouse just max with. In fact, I started deleting healing items just so I can put more ammo. Um, that's and then all right. So PSA. don't pick up the coffee charms unless if you actually tend to use them. And when you look at the charms, when you do what you need to do to get them, if you see that it's a coffee mug, don't pick it up because that doesn't go away in your inventory. You can't just discard it, or at
Oh.
least I didn't. When I tried discarding it, so therefore I have
Mm.
like a whole, almost a whole row of stuff in my shoebox, inventory, like the chest that is all coffee mugs, and I'm like, so great. If I just load those on me, I can just die, and then like it breaks. But other than that, I'm like, I've only died a handful of times. They've only really mostly been at boss battles, and
Oh, wow.
and yeah, so that's kind of how it's been going. I've actually I felt that the first boss battle was broken in the game, and it actually is the most difficult. Broken as in, it is by far the most difficult, at least it was for me, and
Mm.
I was running into lack of items, and that's what made me become such a like, I'm a hoarder by choice in these games in general because I always wanna have extra inventory,
Yeah.
but you had so little, and especially out of that first, encounter, the boss battle, like, I was trying to grab stuff, and because I'm trying to grab stuff, then he's coming in, and then I was just wrecking me, and I was just like, "All right, that's where I died the most," and I was like, "That was really intense." And for a brief moment, I'm like, "Do I drop this down a difficulty?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to." And then the second major boss battle, uh, I died a few times, and then you find out what you kind of learn what the gimmick is or how the trick is, and you're like, okay, now I know what my objective is, so that's fine. And then it kind of the boss battles have, to me personally, have gotten easier as the game went on. But
Okay.
also, I'm more tricked out. I have more items, this and that, so I'm a little more. I'm not a little. I'm way more better prepared. Um,
Yeah,
and
that
then
first boss battle, I think that I was like on my last shell whenever I killed him. I think I had like nothing left. It was I was very very low, so they don't really you don't really know what to do at that point, and they don't really give you a whole lot as you're going into that. You don't have a lot of options. So yeah, you're probably right. That first boss is probably a little overpowered for when you are in the game.
Also, the I've done enough where I've realized when I'm aiming down sights with Saga, at least on mouse and keyboard, I have to aim up into the left of whomever I'm about to hit with a flashlight because the cursor will I'll end up dropping from up here down center. So every time I do a flashlight beam, so it's just like I
Mm,
once I've learned to compensate for that, it's become way more effective, but it's ridiculous that that happens at all.
yeah,
So, uh, yeah, like you said, you're mentioning how the controller like auto targets for you better or something like that. But yeah, for me, it was just like, no, I had to learn to compensate. But once I learned, it was like that's fine. It's just like sighting in a bad rifle or something like that. You're like, okay, I know how to aim with this thing now, and I know how to hit point. So that's kind of the now, I didn't know if you wanted me to tell you this or not, but like I a little late in the game because I discovered um how to mitigate reloading for a few weapons based off of a charm. And I didn't
no,
know if you wanted me to
no,
actually let you know that. Okay.
I'm doing fine.
Because
I
that
don't
kind of
want
broke
to.
the game for me now because I'm like, oh wow, okay, I can instantly reload on a few things. And I'm like, that is kind of OP now.
Nah, I don't want to. I don't want that kind of glitch. I'm not even gonna
Well,
use the. I'm not even gonna use
that's
the
the
stuff
honest
about the
thing is, like, I
inventory.
think I'm wondering if it is a glitch in a certain way because of the way the rules are set up in the game. I'm like, "Okay, this makes sense based off the item descriptions and how it works." So I'm like, but the game's been doing a lot of fun stuff. So that's it. It's just like, we really do wanna get in a big in-depth, discussion about it, but
Yeah,
it'll
story
probably have to
wise,
happen after
spoiler wise, yeah,
yeah, it's just yeah, we'll do a complete spoiler thing. But yeah, that's for another time. Probably it's gonna have to be after the holidays, so
yeah,
or at least after Thanksgiving for us. So all of you who made it this far, yeah, thanks a lot. It's I hope you all have a good Turkey Day. Or if you're not, just enjoy time with this time of year with some good games. And yeah, until next time, y'all take it easy. And Nick, what words of advice do you guys have for everyone? Huh?
um,
Monologue it.
always Bring toilet paper, even if you think you're not going to need it.
I'm pretty sure you gave that advice once, but it's good
It
advice to
sounds
go
really
again, I guess.
familiar. It does.
That or just go with Hitchhiker's Guide. Don't forget to bring a towel.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll go with that one. Don't forget to bring a towel.
All right, Tally. All right, y'all take it easy.
I want to get high. Bye.